Hey, what's up, you all? I was going to put together this quick video on how to set up a base node. First off, what's a base node? Base node allows you to interact with the network, pull information, also submit information on chain. If you're a developer or a team, you're at some point, no doubt, going to need to access a base node. That said, you might not need to run your own base node. You might can probably get a lot of what you need from using a node provider. The first thing I wanted to point out is that there's actually, I think, probably over 20 different node providers that you can choose from if you need access to a node. It's on our docs. It's docs.base.org. On the node providers page, Coinbase on the developer platform, CDP has its own RPC you can use there if you want to set one up. A lot of these have different free options, so you don't even have to pay anything. Get started out if you want to interact with the network. You can just pick one of these. There's a whole bunch of really well-known names in here. I'm just going to keep scrolling. That's how many there are. So that said, sometimes you might want to set up your own base node. At some point, if you're building an application, maybe you want to submit to your own node if you're trying to push transactions. You don't want to get rate limited. You don't want to, as you get to the upper echelons of scale, be paying another provider to run that node for you. Just for some reason or not, you need multiple nodes. So in that case, you're going to set up your own node. But for most people, you don't need one. There's also, importantly, I see people come into Discord, coming from Bitcoin days, also some other networks. There's no financial incentives for running a node. There's no mining rewards or anything like that. This is purely for teams, developers building on top of the network, others experimenting with interacting with the chain. So uh, let's get started. We're going to roll our own base node here. We're going to set it up on GitHub right now. This is github.com/base-org/node. This is where the base node software is that you'll need to get started running your own node. The first thing I want to point out here is that it's pretty hardware intensive running your own node. At any given point in time, Base is doing like 100 transactions per second, goes higher than that. It's going to be very resource intensive on your machine. So you're going to want to make sure that you have minimum specs here to be able to operate this. Also, if you're going to use something like AWS, DigitalOcean, Linode, Hetzner for your own cloud device, it's going to be pretty costly to get this type of hardware. So just pointing that out there. If that's consideration, you might want to run your own hardware locally where you are. So assuming you have that in order, you're ready to start cooking here. We're going to set up this node with Reth as our execution client. Highly recommend that. It's definitely going in the direction of handling really high throughput on Base and other networks as well. We recommend that by default if you're going to be setting up your own base node. Also, running a base node is going to take up a lot of hard disk space. We don't even support snapshots anymore for Geth archives because it's like, I think it's multiple terabytes. It's huge. So using Reth, though, it's still under a terabyte, but as you can see, it's not a small footprint in terms of disk space. So that said, let's go ahead and dive in here. It's going to be really straightforward setting this up. I'm going to go ahead and grab the code base. I'm going to go into my command line here and pull down this repo, which is going to take a moment. I'm also going to go ahead and set this up within a screen session, and that's so that I'm doing this from a VPS. So that when I drop out of this, the node's not going to stop. When I disconnect from this VPS, the node's not going to stop running. So I'm going to type screen right here. That's going to go ahead and get that started. Actually, let me start that again, base node. And okay, so there's our node folder that we just pulled down. I'm now going to go in and we're going to want to set up this Docker container that this software runs in. So the first thing I want to do before I go in to run the Docker command is we're going to need to uncomment our IMs so that we can specify the L1 RPC and also a beacon RPC that we'll need to operate this base node. Another consideration here, if you're setting up your own base node, you're going to need access to an L1. So maybe you already have that L1 node running locally. Maybe you have it in the cloud somewhere. If you don't, you're going to want to go back to these node providers. Many of them offer L1 endpoints. So in this case, I'm using QuickNode for this. They provide great support for base. And so I'm going to go ahead and leak my endpoint here for y'all, but it's easy to set this up. They also have a free tier. You're most likely going to need to switch to a paid tier to use QuickNode or other providers for that L1 endpoint, but it's super affordable. I think, like, for example, QuickNode, it's like maybe around $10, 10-ish euros a month. So that's going to get you started. You're going to be doing all right. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Now I'm going to come back to the command line here. I'm going to go into my Docker Compose file. I need to uncomment 2 lines here. One is for the mainnet environment variables where we're going to put this endpoint. And that's for both the execution client ref, which we're using, and the node itself. And so I'm going to now go back into actually, we haven't been in here yet, but we're going to go into our mainnet IMV, where we're going to specify this L1 RPC that I just copied and pasted from QuickNode. So let me go ahead and paste that in there. And then there's one other place we need to do it, which is that beacon endpoint that I mentioned. And this is it. We're like, it's pretty easy to set up. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to set up Docker so that this node can start running. We're going to want to use ref, as I mentioned. That's the recommended one. So I'm going to grab this line and I'm going to paste this in here, and I need to change supported client to ref. And then once I hit this node is going to be up and running. You'll be able to interact with the network, push transactions, whatever you need to do to be able to interact with base using your own node. And so in this video, I'm not going to sit here and wait for this whole thing to build. It will take a while to compile this. So just putting that out there. But once this is done, you'll be able to fully interact with the chain. And just going back into, let's see, where are we at? Base node. Yeah, I'm going to go into another section of our docs. I'll share these links in the video. But once this gets started, you'll be able to query the syncing status. It's going to take a while if you're syncing from scratch. This node that we just set up is going to sync from scratch. So just putting that out there. You might also want to consider restoring from snapshot. There's instructions here on this node page for how you can do that. But we're not going to do that in this video. It's just really clear. You're just going to want to put it in the ref data folder since we're setting up a node that's using ref as the execution client. But that's it. And then you can monitor, even once you restore from snapshot, there is going to be a bit of a gap between the latest snapshot and the tip of the chain. So you can see here that, like, for ref, it's about 19 hours ago. So it's going to have to sync about 19 hours of information before it's fully caught up. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how you set up your own base node. And if you have any questions, feel free to just reply to this video wherever you saw it. And also in base Discord, base.org/Discord, there's a node operators channel where we're always there to try to help out if you have any questions. So, but yeah, that's it. How to run a base node.